Hello everybody, Jurassic Creations here, and today I'm going to bring you a little bit of a different video than what I normally make. I actually wanted to make a video on the behind the scenes of my most recent stop motion film, which is a recreation of the entire, or at least most of, the T-Rex breakout scene from the original Jurassic Park. Now, I didn't just get up one morning and decide, you know what, I'm going to recreate the entire breakout sequence from Jurassic Park in stop motion. I got this idea, I want to say 2 years ago, and I got the idea when I got the Ford Explorer. Well, the first time I got the Ford Explorer from Mattel when it came out. I remember I went to Target, and it came out a day early. So I was very eager to come home and, open up the set and obviously get to work on stop motion. So I got home, opened the set, and sure enough, just my luck, there's a quality control error on the Ford and I had to return it. So I returned it, went back, and it was gone. There was none on the shelf. I guess the word got out that the Ford Explorer set came out early. So completely wiped off the shelves. I went to 3 other Targets and boom, found another one. We're good to go. After that, I started working on my custom T-Rex that I was going to use for the stop motion because I didn't want to use just a stock Mattel Rex. Everybody uses like stock Mattel Rexes in their, recreations of the breakout. I wanted to do something different. So in about a span of a couple weeks, I ended up making this custom T-Rex that I based off the original Stan Winston maquettes. Now, compared to what I actually used in this recreation, I'll be honest, this custom looks like dog shit. But back then, it was probably the best work I've ever done. But this was back when I was using crappy apple barrel paint to paint all my figures. I didn't have my airbrush, I didn't have all the fancy stuff that I do now. So I guess back then it passed, quote unquote. So I had my Rex, I had my Explorer, which I actually did a little bit of a paint modification on to give it the black trim around the doors. So I thought I was pretty good to go, except for the fact I actually didn't have any fences. So I did end up making a couple of fences that I was going to use, and I actually made a little mock-up using my Mattel Ford Explorer, my Kenner Jungle Explorer, and at the time, my primed up T-Rex. So I had mostly everything. And then I just didn't do it. I moved on to other things and, the project kind of sat in the back of my mind for a bit. Then, in March of last year, 2022, I ended up getting an Extreme Chomping Rex at Savers. And I decided, I'm going to repaint this, I'm going to customize it into another Rexy. Because I looked at my original one and I realized, wow, this is bad. I need to redo this. And so I did. And the idea came back. Oh, I should recreate the Rex Breakout like I was going to do last year. And so I had the Rex looking so much better now. I still think this is one of my best customs ever. So I had the Rex, again, version 2, and I had one Explorer. So I was actually getting ready to start filming, and then the Hammond Rex came out. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to use this instead of my custom. I was going to use a stock Hammond Rex to do my stop motion. And when I got it, I think it was like the last day of June or something like that, so I used it to make a little stop motion for the whole Jurassic June thing. And I realized, of course, my Hammond Rex has a factory error where they did not glue the chest plate on. So I didn't end up making it. Again, idea sat in the back of my mind, and in about November-ish of last year, I got another Hammond Rex that I customized. So I started working on that Rex, and yeah, I broke it. So another trip to Target, luckily they had some, and now it's back to customizing. Now this is the 3rd Rex I've made for this project, and with the Hammond Rex obviously has a lot of articulation. It's going to be a lot easier to animate, which I saw as a bonus, so I'm going to get a lot more movement out of it. Basically, it's a stop motion puppet, so I painted it up, sealed it up the best I could, and I got ready to start filming. And then obviously I waited till after the holidays were over, and in January I finally actually got around to filming. I made even better fences than I had before. I had a lot more foliage than I did 2 years ago. I was pretty set. There was just one issue. I didn't have 2 Mattel Explorers. Thankfully, Mercari got that covered for me. Painted it up real quick, and now we're finally set to filming. And Filming took a lot longer than I thought. I started filming in January. I didn't end up finishing until the beginning of May, mostly because the way I was going to animate this was I was going to have a separate device playing the Rex breakout scene, but I had it slowed down so I would see each individual frame, and I was just gonna recreate every frame and go from there. If I continued filming it like that, this stop motion would have came out for Jurassic Park's 40th anniversary. So I opted to just rewatch the scene, or at least the shot I was trying to do, a bunch of times, animate it, and I even imported the audio from the scene so I could basically line it up with my stop motion. What I didn't account for was how long it was actually going to take. I started filming in January thinking I can do this in a month. Now, I've only really done like really quick stop motion shorts, you know, a few seconds, 30 seconds. I think the longest I'd done up at that point was 3 minutes for my Stranded series that I filmed in 2021 that I only made one episode for. So this was my biggest project, and I didn't realize how difficult it was going to be to recreate some of the scenes. I had to change some of the scenes from their original version in the film to adapt to that I'm filming this with toys and not actual people. I tried to adapt most of the interior shots of the Ford Explorer, mostly because it was very difficult for me to get my camera, my phone, inside of the Ford and try to record the inside. That's why some of the scenes that take place inside the Explorer actually take place right outside of it. Now, of course, I couldn't adapt all the interior Ford Explorer scenes outside, so I just did the best I could. And moving the figures inside the Ford was also kind of a pain to do, and you can see some of the little... I would use toothpicks with mounting putty stuck to the end of it just to get the figures to move a little bit to simulate movement, because I could not move the figures inside the vehicle. I can't stick my hands in there. So when I recorded the stop motion, obviously the scene takes place at night, although I filmed it during the day figuring I would change it to night later. This will become a huge problem later on in the editing phase, but for now, it worked. I could see what I was doing. It was great. Now, when it came to the Rex actually ripping the fence wires down, I had to take the fences that I made and actually cut the wire with a pair of pliers in order to actually get the Rex to break the fences. And so I only had one shot, and I filmed it, and it looks like this. Looks pretty bad, right? I thought so too. So I salvaged as much as I could from the original scene and decided to redo it. And now it looks a lot better. I ended up spending most of my time reanimating the times where I had to make the Rex walk. That was probably the toughest thing I had to do while filming it, because the Hammond Rex I actually repainted, of course, had super loose foot joints. Now, actually, all of my Hammond Rexes have this, so it's not a one-off quality issue. It's an issue every single Hammond Rex has. So for animating the walk cycles, the damn thing kept falling flat on its face. So I went through extensive measures to make sure that Rex wasn't gonna fall over. I had a rig attached to its tail, holding it down because I can't hold the Rex and film at the same time. It was nearly impossible. So that's why some of the Rex walking sequences in the stop motion look a tad bit janky, because it kept toppling over and I had to reposition it. So once I finally wrapped up filming in the beginning of May, it was on to the editing phase, which, besides actually doing all the stop motion, was probably going to be one of the toughest things to do. So every time I wrapped up filming for a day, I would export what I have and rewatch it and make sure it looks good, which I'm so glad I did, A, because I actually have footage to use in this behind the scenes video, and several times while filming, the audio got misaligned with the stop motion, so I had to either add or delete frames in order to get it all aligned again. And so I actually kind of ruined some of my original shots because I had to either delete frames, add frames, get rid of this, put this here, move shit around, and some of the sequences ended up looking worse than what I had originally filmed. Like, specifically Gennaro running to the toilet, I had filmed and I actually thought it looks pretty good, and then I had to redo it with deleting frames and stuff to match the audio, and I ended up making a version of it that I didn't even like. But thankfully, I had a backup, which I ended up using in the final product. So I compiled all the shots together and I started editing it to make it look like it was actually nighttime, because didn't realize filming it during the day would be a massive pain to turn to night, because on my editing software I had used a filter I think called day to night, and I used that for the stop motion short I made with the Rex attacking the construction crew working on the fence. In the original Jurassic Park T-Rex breakout scene, the shot is very blue, so I had to kind of add that blue in manually and color grade it. And I ended up using the filter and took a lot of editing to get it to look like it was nighttime, or at least look like it was in the final product. And then there was one more thing that I was just putting off and putting off and putting off. And that was the shot where the T-Rex lowers his head down, looks at Lex, his pupil shrinks, and his head raises back up. I didn't know how I was going to do that. And I put it off and put it off and put it off until I have to do this. This is the last thing I did before finalizing the film. And so I ended up just doing this. What you're looking at is my 3D modeling software, Blender, which I use to create all my action figures and dioramas, stuff that I 3D print. If you didn't know I did this stuff, you should definitely go check out my Instagram, by the way. Shameless plug. But I ended up making a plane. I threw the video on the plane, had the camera directly linked up to the plane, and then I just cut a hole where the eye was going to be, because I had the Rex freeze there for that specific reason in case I had to do something like this. And I just made a hole and put the new eye in, and I actually made the pupil shrink by editing the textures and having it switch from one texture to another, and I think it came out pretty good. Is it perfect? No, but it's technically my first time dealing with CGI, quote unquote, and for the time being, it works, and I'll probably look at it in 5 years and think, what the hell was I doing? But this is why I'm making this video, because there was a lot going back into this project that I didn't think I was going to have to spend nearly 2 years creating. So with the CGI out of the way, I threw it back in, I compiled it, and now we have the finished product that you can watch on YouTube. It was one hell of a ride making this absolutely monstrous project. Am I proud of it? Absolutely. It's the biggest stop motion I've ever done, because this was probably one of the most difficult stop motions I've ever had to make in my entire life. But I'm glad that I did it, and I'm glad I was able to get it done by the 30th anniversary of Jurassic Park. That was just kind of a unexpected bonus. I wasn't planning on making it for the JP30 anniversary, but it just kind of so happened to be finished by the time the 30th anniversary rolled around. So I'm pretty happy with it, and I hope you guys enjoy the video, and I hope you enjoy this little behind the scenes of the entire process, because this was obviously not an easy task. So that's it from me. Hope you guys enjoy, and I'll see you all in the next video.